Hey guys, it's time for a nice tender classic song. I thought if we get started early on this, you're going to nail this by Valentines. Also, it's a nice song to do simply first and then incorporate chords into later. So I'm going to play it nice and simple to begin with, and we'll go through that and then we'll beef it up with some chords, okay? Here we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see it's fairly simple in terms of rhythm. It's just T and the occasional sponge. Sponge is what I like to use instead of, counting 4. You can count 4, of course you can. It's whatever works for you. So if I just read to you the rhythm of the top line, and bear in mind that little lightning bolt symbol is just a crotchet or a quarter note rest. So it's worth 1, so it's T anyway. I'll whisper that one. So you're going to go T, 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 sponge. And there you go, that's the top line. And that's pretty much the gist of the whole thing, to be honest. So let's bring the right hand up so you can see exactly what's picking what. And you know me by now, guys, so my thumb is tackling all the bass notes, the E, the A, the D. The index is over on the G, the middle finger is on the B, and the ring finger is taking care of my E string down here. But we'll go slow. You might wonder why I've got the 1 down already, but this is just so I can find where I'm going. If I didn't have it down, my hand might panic, it might miss it, it might go to G sharp instead of where it needs to be. So I'm like, well, that's the first shape I'm going to have, so I'm just going to leave it down. So here we go. So index first, then middle finger, still middle finger, and you'll notice I'm going into a D shape here. This will help you because you have a 3 and a 2 straight away. Even if you don't put this one down, it's going to help. Then you're over here, still middle finger, index finger, middle finger, back to middle finger. And then that whole thing repeats, so once you got the top line, you are good to go, my friends, you're almost there. So we repeat, index, middle, 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 index, middle, middle, index, middle, middle. And then it's kind of boring for you because you're just over here and there's nothing going on, so just lots of... And you'll notice I'm leaving these fingers down. This is so that I'm not catching everything, because if I didn't, that might happen. So I just leave them on the string. Then nothing horrible can happen. Lots of T here. And then almost an F, or you'll see that in a minute anyway, so... Then 3, that's my middle finger there, back to middle finger again. And then ring finger, 2, 3, 4. On that bottom string, still the ring finger, 2/3 of a D. This is another reason, if I just quickly pause, this is another reason to hold down a chord. You could hear that it was plucking 2 strings at once. It didn't mean to, it's because my hand is up here and it should be by the sound hole. But if you have the chord down, then it's not going to sound wrong. If you didn't, it might go a little bit wrong if it was a different chord. We're just very lucky it's D. Anyway, moving on. So middle, index, middle, back to middle, ring finger. And we can slow down here because it's the end of the song. Just laughed at my own mistakes now. And then back to 1. So you can kind of see by my hand it's very uncomfortable up here on the neck like this. It's not used to working like that. It's used to being over the sound hole. So like I said before, don't put your hand up here. Have it back by the sound hole. But that's all I'm doing in terms of picking. Now I'm going to beef this up now. I'm going to pop some chords down because my hand doesn't like doing it bitty like this. It prefers the whole chord down. And it gives you options as well. So you're more or less aiming for the bass note of the chord to make this a little bit more interesting, especially by the time you get to all those E's on the bottom. That's going to be a bit boring if you don't have the chords going on. So in terms of bass notes, it's the thumb that's going to be plucking at the same time as the melody note. So we're starting with our G and we're going to pop this bottom C in it. which you can't hear very well if I play it up here, but never mind. There we go, that's better. Here we are. And like I said before, the whole chord is down just in case I fluff it and maybe I did this. If the whole chord's down, it won't sound awful. So from the beginning again, remember we're going into a D straight afterwards. D chord, and you can do a nice little, if you want, a nice little flick. You don't have to, you can just hit the D string with that B string at the same time. And this G7, I would recommend you pop it down at least that. You probably don't want to put this one down because you're going to be using it in a minute to find the 2 anyway, but at least get that bassy G. Bassy G. Sounded like a medical term, didn't it? Get the bassy G down at the same time. And then back to C. It makes it a much nicer transition. If you tried to do that, I mean, you can kind of see it's not going to happen if you try and do a normal G, or if you try and do that G7. You're missing a finger where you need one. So don't do that. So one last time. In fact, one last time because the whole thing repeats. Let's carry on. D. G7 without this one. Because it's got to go over there. If I move everything out, you can see what it's doing. And then back to C. 2, 3, 4. Leave it there. Now you notice I'm using E. You could use E7. That's totally fine. There's all kinds of E7s. You could use that one. You could use that one. But you'll also notice if you're just doing the bass note, you won't hear it. So you kind of want to think, do I want to pluck it that way or maybe in the middle, maybe from the A string? So you have options when you put the chord down. So find what you'd like to do. What do I like to do? Let's have a look. I think I like doing that. I do like that sort of staggered pluck. Good, coming into our F. I wouldn't stagger pluck with this one. Although actually, no, do you know what? I would. That worked. When I did it before, it didn't work, but that sounds quite nice. But you're risking it a little bit because you're getting an F major 7 and you don't want to change the harmony of the chord, as my tutor once told me. But anyway, here we go. So if we just take the F in the bass into the C, 2, 3, 4, A7. And you can kind of see I've used the wrong fingers here, which is interesting. So my hand instantly went to lean back like that. Don't worry if that happens with your hand. It's kind of odd, isn't it? You kind of want to almost like an A minor but spread out. You kind of want that shape, but don't worry if your hand does what my hand did. You could just move over that way because you're only hitting this one. If you were hitting all of it, like if I moved my fingers up, that could go, a little bit messy, and we don't want that. So let's do that again, nice and simple. So just the A string. 2/3 of that D. Coming over to that G7, but without this one, because this one's coming down here. Actually, it's not this time. Because it's our little finger this time that's getting the 3. And then we're rocking back into C. I think that's what I was thinking of. And I like to do a nice strum to finish it, just to make it sound nicer then. But again, that's up to you. It's your own preference. So one more time, I'm going to move my hand back here. Oh, that's better. It prefers that. So I'll go nice and steady. Here we go. I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you go. And remember, you do have the YouTube option of slowing this all down. Hit the cog, playback speed 75. Can't recommend it enough. It does make everything easier. And you would have heard in that I definitely did a few flicks like that. You'll get these with practice, to be honest. Try not to overdo it. You don't want to do anything that will get your fingers caught in the strings. It's just a gentle, one at a time, but quick enough that it sounds almost at the same time. And you'll also notice I found that easier, actually, a lot easier when my hand was down here, because then I could get into that shape with the A7. So I had my F. And I used this C to leave this one down, find almost an A minor shape, but leaving that bit out, and then I could move that down. That did make it easier for me. So if that makes it easier for you, do it. And like I said before, don't feel you have to go at full speed towards the end. Slow it down. Makes it more romantic anyway. It's just a beautiful song, this one. And one more thing, because I can't resist to say this, because I found it whenever I'm accompanying my students, I quite like playing an F to an F minor, then to a C. So say you wanted to serenade your lover, you might prefer doing that. So you might go, I don't know if I remember all the words, but here we go. Love me tender, love me long, take me in your arms. Here we go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Just mixed up two verses, but it's cool. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will. So it just gives it that little bit of an edge, I just like doing it, that F to F minor, just nice. So all that is F is like that if I'm not doing it this way. I could do it this way, I could do a bar if I'm accompanying, I'm not plucking anything, and in which case it looks easier because it's just the middle finger comes off and helps clamp the bar. So F major, F minor, and when we do it this way we've got F, and it's almost the same idea. That one moves up, this one comes off, and that's it, and then you're straight back into your C. So there you go. I really hope you enjoy this one. I just love this song. It's lovely and friendly. It's a great one to start if you're new to tab on the guitar as well, because I don't know what it is about this song. We all seem to know it. It's like somebody sang it to us constantly as a child. I don't know. It's just a lovely one. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. See you all again soon. Bye.